It's a big gift for somebody to do this, and not every person would do this.
I wish I could have done it sooner, but I know that this was the perfect time.
The most incredible gift from a mother to her young son. Coming up, the rare disorder that led to little Brennan needing a new kidney. Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell. Welcome to the Morning Medical Update. 6-year-old Brennan has endured much more than your average first grader, but his personality still shines thanks to a loving family and years of complex medical treatments. We first met him and his mom, Jessica, about a year ago when Jessica gave Brennan one of her kidneys. We first take a look back, and then we find out where are they now.
You would expect someone about to have major surgery to feel all sorts of emotions, and that's true for 38-year-old Jessica Meza. But all of her emotions are focused on a little boy who at this moment is being prepped for his major surgery 4 miles away at Children's Mercy Hospital.
He's amazing. He's the most amazing little boy.
Jessica is donating her kidney to her 5-year-old son, Brennan.
Brennan's had a lot of anxiety regarding this, almost like whenever you mention transplant, he just kind of gets very frantic. So that's my thing, is I can't be there to comfort him. I can't be there to reassure him.
Brennan has Eagle-Barrett syndrome, commonly known as prune belly syndrome. It means he was born without a full wall of stomach muscles. The syndrome comes with a host of other problems. Brennan was also born with stage 4 kidney disease. He was in kidney failure and on dialysis before he was even 1 year old. But 6 weeks ago, Jessica finally got the call she was approved to donate her kidney. It has been a very long and very dark road leading up to this day.
So I did a workup about 3 years ago, and they told me at the time that I needed to lose 20 pounds. So I thought, no problem. I ended up getting pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage. And then COVID happened, so everybody was gaining weight. And Brennan had a stroke at that time too, in June of 2020.
Jessica buckled down, ultimately losing 50 pounds.
It's a big gift for somebody to do this, and not every person would do this.
Transplant surgeon Dr. Sean Coomer leads the team removing Jessica's kidney.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest responsibilities and greatest honors at the same time.
The surgery takes about 2 hours from first cut to last stitch. But before he fully removes Mom's gift of life from her body, Dr. Coomer makes one final call to Brennan's team of doctors at Children's Mercy Hospital.
Are you good? You okay for me to proceed and get it all squared away, and not cross plans?
Kidney out, Dr. Coomer delicately prepares it for little Brennan and his waiting surgical team. Before this surgery, we had asked Jessica and Dr. Coomer if they had any messages for Brennan, who will one day grow up and see this story.
Your mom saved your life, gave you life, saved your life, and continues to love you.
I wish I could have done it sooner, but I know that this was the perfect time.
Jessica and Brennan join us now this morning. So good to see you both. How are you both doing?
Good morning. We are doing good.
Good. Can't wait to catch up this morning. We're also joined here in the studio with Dr. Sean Coomer, the transplant surgeon you just saw in that video, along with Dr. Jeff Klein. He is a nephrologist, a kidney doctor here at the health system who is handling Jessica's post-transplant care. So good to see you guys.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Cool to see this little guy, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So Jessica, just kind of update us on, well, I'll ask Brennan how he's doing, but just tell us how you're both doing.
I think we're doing pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Yeah? Tell us what's going on with you, Brennan. You doing good?
Yeah.
You feel good?
Yeah.
You like your new kidney?
Yeah.
Pretty cool what Mom did, huh?
Yeah.
She's kind of the best mom ever? Yeah? Yeses across the board. So what improvements have you seen, Jessica, in Brennan since the transplant?
We've seen so many positive changes. I think the biggest one being is when Brennan was pre-transplant, he had a lot of uremia due to his kidney disease. So he was nauseous all the time and throwing up several times a day. And then almost immediately post-transplant. No more throwing up, no more nausea feeling. And I think that was the biggest change that we saw. And just, it made his dad and I so incredibly happy, because we spent the last 5 years prior just watching him throw up every day and wishing that we could do something for him. And, now he's good. Doesn't throw up at all, right?
Yep.
Yep. So some good immediate changes after that transplant. Jessica, how are you feeling physically right now, though? Good?
Physically, I'm doing well. There was definitely a period of time where I felt like I would never recover. It is not for the faint of heart, but I feel good now. I feel like I did before, still strong, still full of energy. So, yeah, I'm good.
You had mentioned earlier that you were surprised that you were feeling a little depressed after the transplant. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, going into the surgery, they did say that depression was a side effect. And I kind of dismissed it. I dismissed a lot of things, honestly. I didn't think it was going to be as serious as it was. But I quickly learned that I was feeling a lot of kind of like postpartum depression issues. I had a lot of doubt on who I was and what I was supposed to do next. I feel like I had this big feeling of, I gave my kidney, what more is there for me to do? I kind of feel like I peaked and I had nothing left to give and nothing left to do. And so it definitely put me in a really hard place. And, we sought mental and emotional help for me, and seeing a therapist was very helpful in that, and getting on some medications to help regulate my emotions, so that ultimately I could be there for Brennan and his progress. So
really interesting, because docs, we talk a lot about the physical recovery when we talk about a transplant. We don't often hear about this, what some people might think of as kind of like a postpartum depression you have after having a baby or something. Is that normal? Do you hear that post-transplant?
It does happen. Kidney donation is really complicated.
Tell us all about it.
You have individuals that are looking to do a physical donation of an organ for the good of someone else. This is something we have no measure for that clinically. And it's kind of like someone's training for an event, and when the event is over, the smoke clears, then the emotions come out. And it's really mixed. Some people are excited, some people are ambivalent, some are anxious, some are depressed. Depression's probably about 10%, kind of like the general population, but the timing of it, totally unpredictable.
Well, it's interesting because you're doing it to feel better, because you're going to give this ultimate give. And then, like she said, she felt like she peaked when it was all over. Dr. Coomer, what do you hear from patients? Because I know up until the very last moment, people can change their mind. When you walk in that room right before transplant, it's, hey, are you still good with this, right?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, yeah, first do no harm, but this is kind of a weird situation, right? Where I always tell all the donors, you'll be the only person here at KU getting an operation you don't need. We're not making you better after this operation. We're hoping to keep it the same. And certainly it's painful and can have side effects like depression and other things. So yes, but ultimately, all the way to the point where up till you go to sleep, you can say, I'm out.
Right, right. But it is interesting. An interesting part to hear about the emotional part, Jessica. So thank you for sharing. So back to the actual surgery, Dr. Coomer, and this might be better if we had a pediatric surgeon in here, but from where you stand, tell us how it works with an adult kidney and a child kidney, and somebody, big parts versus small parts.
Sure. Yeah, so transplant surgeons do pediatric all the way through adult transplantation. We do that as well here, but we have a really unique relationship with Children's Mercy, so that we kind of share the responsibility, which has worked great over many years. But yeah, it's all about fitting things in, and usually, and it's from an adult to adult transplant, the donor kidney is placed onto the leg vessels. But sometimes those leg vessels are small, like in a child, like in Brennan maybe. So sometimes the vessels of the kidney are plugged into the aorta or the vena cava, so a little bit larger vessels. So, but things you kind of move things around a little
Yeah,
bit.
you got a high pressure job over there.
Well,
yeah.
It's kind of fun.
It is pretty fun. So there's this moment, and I want to show it here on the video. In the operating room, the kidney is out of Jessica's body, and then you're still sitting here working on it. What are you doing?
So when we take the kidney out, we use specialized staplers. So right there, I was just cutting off the staple line, and then you'll see in a few minutes that first of all, the kidney's on ice. Slow down the metabolism of the kidney. Now I'm inserting a cannula into the artery of the kidney, and that's putting preservative solution into the kidney, which is also cold, and flushing out all the blood. This preserves the kidney. We keep it cold. It gets packaged and by professional courier, and it's shipped directly over to Children's Mercy in this case.
Well, we hear in that story, and that's one thing I loved about that story, is hearing you actually on speakerphone talking to the team across town, making sure, hey, are we good to go?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that timing and how important is it? And then, yeah, is that courier just rushing over and bobbing and weaving through traffic to get that kidney?
No. So what happens initially, we always want to make sure is how are things proceeding on the donor side. You know, God forbid something happens, there's blood pressure changes, or they have unexpected things going on. So the last thing we want to do now, if they have to abort their operation over at Children's, well, we would stop, and when I'm asking that, that's before I actually divide the artery, the vein, and the ureter before taking the kidney out, because I could stop at that point if we have to.
Okay, so what if the big if you have already made the cut and the incision, then you get a call and say, wait, we got to slow down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work that timing?
Yeah, so actually in that situation, the kidneys actually can survive on ice for a long period of time. You know, we always talk about living donation. On average, they last 3 to 5 years longer than the average deceased donor kidney. But the timing, you know, we don't put this in a box and the courier doesn't run over with police lights or an escort or anything like that. There's plenty of time to reach over, and it's only 4 or 5 miles away, so it's not that big a deal. Quite honestly, with deceased donor kidneys, we sometimes receive them 12, 15 hours later.
Sure. So Dr. Klein, what does it mean for somebody who now has one kidney, like in Jessica's case? What does this mean for her overall long-term health?
Well, statistically, for most donors, they live a normal life, that they have adequate kidney function to live to a normal lifespan. We can see changes that were mandated to follow up over 2 years. So we follow blood pressure changes, weight, laboratory tests, so blood and urine tests commonly, and make sure that people are in good health after 2 years so that they can see their primary care doctors and other specialists if needed. The idea is that people recover well and that we help them do that.
So Jessica, we know that Brennan has seen so many doctors over the years, so many surgeries. What are you most looking forward to when it comes to Brennan and his future?
I think what we're most looking forward to is just Brennan being able to live a normal life and, you know, do all the same things that the kids that his age are doing, and spending less time in the hospital. You know, we went from being in the hospital almost every month, like once a month we'd be admitted the 2 years prior to transplant, and not having those long hospital stays is just something that is a huge blessing to us, being able to be with our family and experience life outside of the hospital is just, it's probably the best thing.
So we know that Brennan's done a ton of physical therapy through all of this. Tell us a little bit why he needs the therapy and how he's doing with that.
So when Brennan was born, the prune belly caused his hips to be born out of socket. So that gave complications with being able to walk, as well as the lack of abdominal muscles, not having that core strength to be able to stand up and walk the way any normal child would as they're growing. So he's done a lot of physical therapy for that, and having a stroke in 2020 also put him back. And his recovery from that has been amazing. He's worked with Ability KC in Kansas City, and they're just an awesome place. You know, everybody there is just so good at their job and so invested in Brennan's recovery, all of their patients' recoveries. But we just saw a huge change. You know, we were told after his stroke it would be cerebral palsy symptoms at best. And, you know, you can't even tell now. He's amazing. He just is so determined, and you can see it every day that he works hard. He knows what his limits are, and for him, there are no limits. Like he does what he wants and when he wants, and if he can't do it yet, then he will try and try again. So it's just great to see him be able to put that energy and that determination into his everyday life.
So earlier this year, you all met up with other families at the Prune Belly Survivors Network. Tell us about that. What was that like, meeting up with other families?
So Prune Belly has kind of this family of survivors and families who've experienced the same thing, and they like to do a conference every year. It was on hold because of COVID, but we were able to go in July to Ohio and meet up with these other Prune Belly families. And, for Brennan to be able to see kids his age that are going through the same things, I think was very helpful. He can understand that he's not alone. There are kids just like him. And even though it seems like he might be the only one at school going through something like this, there are other kids in the world that are dealing with the same things that he is. And that was encouraging for us. And being able to share stories with other parents and other doctors and specialists, and just kind of shed more light on Prune Belly syndrome and what can we expect as we continue this journey going forward.
Thank you so much for educating the public on what this is. It's so interesting to hear about it and learn more about it. Brennan, I'm saving some of the last most important questions for you. So we know Halloween's coming up. Do you know what you're going to be this year for Halloween?
Yeah.
What's it going to be?
I wanna be Spider-Man.
Yes, this is an excellent choice. I love that. How exciting. And you're going to get tons of candy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I could get Reese's.
Reese's.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. You're right in line with me. I love it. Good Spider-Man, good Reese's, love it. So Jessica, you've done such an awesome job taking photos and videos and really documenting this journey through the years. You post a lot on Facebook and on your page. So why was it so important for you to be so public with this story?
Honestly, it started with all of our family and friends that are spread out across the world. They're just like, we want to know what's going on. And it's really hard to call everyone and text everyone and say, hey, Brennan's in the hospital, this is what's happening, or Brennan just did this. And so we created a Facebook page to be able to update our friends and family. And then we learned, as Brennan started dialysis and, when he had his stroke, that there was a community that needed awareness of what this condition was, and that also wanted to help and wanted to support us. And, we've had people come through in so many ways, providing childcare for us, for our other kids when he was in the hospital, or sending us meals, or, purchasing things off of Amazon that we needed for Brennan's care and recovery, and then for my care and recovery and transplant. So, it's been a huge source of, just keeping our friends and family informed, but also raising awareness for Prune Belly and what it's like to have a medical journey like this.
All right, hang tight. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Be sure to ask your questions for Jessica or the doctors or Brennan. You can use the chat on YouTube or Facebook, tweet us, or email the Medical News Network. Info is right there on your screen. Let's check in with Dr. Dana Hawkinson this morning, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah, right now we have a lower number of active patients in the hospital with COVID, 15 this week as opposed to 20 and 22 before that. So numbers are being good right now, and again, still really not a lot of activity with RSV and influenza in the community. Certainly, as far as low hospitalizations for influenza as well. So that is always good. We haven't hit into the peak yet for influenza, but we know year by year that can be different times. It can be early or late. So we'll just kind of wait to see. But I think it is important to continue to encourage getting vaccinated now to get that protection and then keep that protection through respiratory viral season.
So what if people could
Yeah.
give the flu vaccine to themselves? The drug maker AstraZeneca is asking the FDA to approve a self-administered flu vaccine. It is a nasal spray, not an injection, of course. The FDA will not decide until next year at the earliest. But if the FDA says yes, it will be the first ever flu vaccine that doesn't require a healthcare worker to administer it. So, Doc Hawk, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, I think that's good. I think if we can educate the public and have the supply and have them the ability to get that vaccine literally almost on demand, again, if there is supply, I think that is a good thing. Obviously, we will need to make sure that is, number one, safe, number two, effective. Three, if you're doing it at home, that most everybody could do it or read instructions to do it and do it adequately. So I think that is very good. I know if you are trying to schedule flu vaccines right now, sometimes it can be difficult, whether at your physician's office or at commercial pharmacies around. I know I'm having that issue right now with my children. So we know that there are multiple barriers to getting different vaccines. If this helps eliminate one of those barriers, then I think it's all good.
Yep. All right, Hawk, thanks so much. Let's get to some questions from our viewers today. And Ruth Ellen wants to know, Dr. Coomer, just curious about those two, the medical professionals who left with the kidney. What kind of specialists are they? You hand those off, they transport it over. This is not an Uber driver. These are trained professionals. Tell us about them.
They are organ specialists. They work with Midwest Transplant Network, which is based here on State Line in Kansas City. They are skilled to package by government regulations and deliver directly into the operating room.
So they come to us, and then move over down the road to Children's Mercy. Question, we were talking about, Dr. Klein, about people who have depression when they give a kidney. Do we know, and this is for either doctors, do we know if it ever happens for the recipient? We know they physically feel really well afterwards, but what about depression on that end? You know, what stories have you heard?
Depression is extremely common in kidney disease patients. So probably a third or more of patients have depression with end-stage kidney disease, and it generally does improve after transplant, particularly for patients that have been on dialysis, because their quality of life is pretty dramatically improved. That said, with changes, there can be emotional adjustment, and that can be depression or other things that come up.
Hard to imagine it wouldn't be a life-changing surgery and a new organ.
Absolutely.
So question for you, Jessica, does Brennan need help walking? What kind of assistance does he need in areas as he's doing his physical therapy?
Yeah, currently he does have a wheelchair that he uses every day, like at school. But he is doing a lot of physical therapy with walking, and he has a walker that he uses. The big thing for him is just, raising that stamina and being able to walk long term. He's strong enough, but sometimes I think even post-stroke, he's got these other issues that he's battling where he just has to kind of retrain his body to do what he could do prior to that. And having the energy and the stamina to be able to walk a whole day, that's a lot for him, and something that we hope to work towards, which we're doing in therapy. But he does a really good job with it. He likes to walk around the living room table and stand up against the couch and stuff. So practice wherever he can, but not quite there on his own yet.
He's getting there. So Jessica, how did COVID complicate Brennan's health care during that time? What was that like?
Well, Brennan recovered from his stroke, I would say probably nine months to a year after his stroke, and he was able to have a kidney donation at that time. But because of COVID and the different restrictions that they had, they postponed all transplants, and so we weren't even looking for anything. The list wasn't active just because they didn't want to take the risk that a kidney could have the virus in it and it could cause further complications.
So I want to get to today's takeaways, and I'll start with you, Dr. Klein. What do you want folks to take away from today's talk?
Consider organ donation, whether that's signing a donor card or looking into living donation. Call your local centers if you're curious.
Simple message, easy thing to do. Dr. Coomer, what's the takeaway today?
I would second that. I mean, organ donation saves lives. Whether it's signing your card, whether it's becoming a living donor or a deceased donor, those are very important things. You can save a life. And we have, at an increasing rate nowadays, we have more people coming back out altruistically. And people are hearing that message, which is really nice to hear.
I love hearing those stories. Jessica, what's the takeaway from you and Brennan's story?
Kind of piggybacking on what the doctors had said, you know, it's a big deal. It's a lot of work. It's hard, but anything in life that is worth doing is going to be hard. You're going to have to work at it. And the amount of changes that we've seen for the better in Brennan's life has superseded any amount of hardship that I've been through with my recovery, or even the hardships that we endured on the journey pre-transplant. It's just amazing to see the turnaround in Brennan and to see his quality of life improved. And we're really excited to watch him grow up and, you know, be a happy, healthy kid.
Well, we appreciate you both for sharing your story. Jessica, thank you. Tell Brennan hi and bye for us, okay?
Will do.
All right. Thanks to all of our guests today. We have a special episode of the Morning Medical Update that airs later this morning on television. Here's a preview.
Her little life is counting on them to do everything that she needs, and people show up and they care and love for her beyond any expectation I could ever have.
Tune in for Cancer, Choices, Hope, and Science. That is today at 9:30 a.m. on KCTV5 and 9 a.m. on WIBW in the Topeka area. Thanks to all of our viewers for being with us today. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 8. A wedding, a new home, and a bright future that Sarah Johnson didn't think she would have until just recently. I'm Jessica Lovell on the next Open Mics with Dr. Stites. We catch up with Sarah on where she is now, 4 years after the FDA approved life-changing meds for patients with cystic fibrosis. Wednesday at 8.
Subscribe to our Morning Medical Update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now everywhere podcasts are available.